Welcome to the No Tracers podcast. My name is Kay, and I'm your host here on this podcast about urban exploration. If you guys are into this kind of stuff, this is definitely the podcast for you to listen to. I'm going to be giving you guys tips and tricks and insight into exploring abandoned places. But this week on the podcast, I wanted to talk about the darkness of abandoned places. I'm actually going to be reading from a blog post that I put on notracers.com/blog. So if you guys want to check that out, you can head over there, see some photos along with, getting some more context as to what I'm talking about. But there's this thing in abandoned buildings that I like to call the darkness. And basically what it is, when you walk into an abandoned building, sometimes they have energy inside. They have this element of spirituality almost. And sometimes you'll turn a corner and you'll be met with a dark corridor. And it's not just dark, it's the darkest black I have ever experienced in my entire life. And I've experienced it in about 4 different buildings, and there's nothing like it, and it's absolutely terrifying. But I'm going to be reading from you guys. I'm going to be reading from a blog for you guys, I should say. So here we go. Let's get into this. Okay. So this blog post could go a few ways. You may not believe in ghosts, and you may find this humorous. But if you're an urban explorer that's experienced this, then you will take this seriously. Let me know in the comments if you've experienced this before. Have you ever been exploring an abandoned building, specifically an asylum, hospital, morgue, church, or other particularly spooky place, and you turn a corner and see darkness? Now, I'm not talking about that normal kind of darkness. No, this is a special kind of darkness. How can I explain it? This darkness takes your breath away, makes the hairs on your neck and arms stand up, makes your ears perk up, and oftentimes stops you dead in your tracks. I took a photo in one of these buildings, and I think it depicts it quite well. I've felt this darkness in a few places I've explored, and it's so terrifying that it makes me leave the premises immediately while apologizing for invading their space, whoever they are. There's an abandoned boys' juvenile detention center in North Carolina where I felt this feeling at one point while exploring, but I had to investigate it. I felt the need to push myself that day, which probably isn't the wisest move, but I wanted to get a long exposure photo in this eerie, prison-like room with only one desk and chair inside. This was a 6-foot by 6-foot room with a narrow passageway to get into it. I'm almost certain that it was used for some kind of punishment, like a timeout room or something. Another place I felt this darkness was, shockingly, an abandoned office building. I'm not sure what could have happened to make this place become haunted, but the darkness on this day stopped myself and my friend Chamo as dead in our tracks, at exactly the same instant. We were walking down a hallway and we both looked around a corner to the left and we stopped, looked at each other and said, "Should we leave?" And we immediately turned around and quickly exited the building. Upon stepping into an abandoned elementary school in West Virginia, I felt a bit of that feeling when I saw a staircase that was completely crumbled in. There was no darkness visibly there. It was just a weird place. I was recently messaged on Instagram by someone that enjoys my content and said, "Yo, you should bring a blessed rosary to protect yourself from evil spirits, Kay." I appreciate the warning and advice and reassured them that I go into these explorations quite prepared. That being said, I may start carrying a form of spiritual protection with me, and perhaps you should too. My number one tip if you're just getting into urban exploring is to bring someone with you. Don't do this stuff alone. It's not safe at all. There's safety in numbers. So, that's just a little snippet from my blog post about, exploring places and feeling this darkness that's inside of these places. And this darkness, man, I wish I could explain it with words. I wish I had a way to articulate what it's like, but you really have to experience it. Like I said in the blog post, it takes your breath away. It literally saps all of the life from you. It's like your soul is getting pulled out by this darkness, by these other spirits. It's crazy. Whenever I experienced it the first time, I was in an abandoned insane asylum and I jumped through a window and I ended up in a room. And then when I walked out of that room, I turned to my left and there was a giant long hallway with a small light at the very end, but somehow it was completely pitch black. And I felt this sinking feeling in my chest. My breath was taken away. The hair on my arms and neck stood up. And it was like unlike anything I had ever experienced in my life. And mind you, I grew up with ghosts and spirits and all that kind of stuff all around me. My grandparents owned an old 1800s bed and breakfast in Louisiana, and it was surely haunted by three spirits. A lady looking for her husband, a little girl that died from pneumonia, and a cowboy-like figure that would just walk up and down the attic stairs with his cowboy boots on and his hat. So I grew up with these kind of spirits around me. So I was introduced to it when I was a kid, but when I started exploring abandoned buildings and I started experiencing this dark feeling, like it's almost like satanic, you know, and I'm actually live on TikTok right now while I am recording this podcast, and somebody said that I should actually talk about like satanic rituals taking place in some of these buildings. And the thing is, like, you don't know what's going on in these buildings. You don't know what other explorers are doing in these buildings. And if somebody opens a portal, like they opened a door to the other side, and it can be very dangerous and it can be devastating to you, and you can take that stuff home with you. That's the crazy thing. Like that, like my motto is leave no trace, but like if something attaches itself to you, you're screwed. So definitely be mindful. And whenever I enter abandoned buildings now, I always say like, hi, we're here to explore and take photos. We're not here to invade your space. If we do get into your space, just let us know by, you know, the energy in the room. Just change the energy and we will leave immediately. And that's happened a few times. And like I said earlier, in that office building, that was a time that was the first time I ever experienced that feeling with someone else. Like I had somebody else there with me that was feeling that exact same feeling. So I know that it's real based on that. Based on the fact that my friend and I literally stopped dead in our tracks at exactly the same time, looked at each other, and we were like, should we leave? We both felt that feeling when we saw the darkness. And I want to know from you. You can message me on Instagram at no.tracers, and you can let me know if you've ever experienced this. I would love to hear about it, and I would love to know more from you guys about, you know, what you've experienced in these different buildings, because I know I'm not the only one out there that's felt this feeling. I mean, I wrote this blog, and, you know, I've had people reach out to me since then on Instagram and stuff about what they've experienced. And so I know I'm not alone when I talk about this kind of stuff. So it's super interesting to hear from you guys. So definitely let me know on Instagram, on Twitter at @KAnagonio. I'll put my links in the description. I would love to absolutely hear from you guys and know if you've ever felt this darkness, if you've ever felt this eerie, disgusting feeling. Like, it's a disgusting feeling, to be completely honest with you. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's pretty gross. It makes me feel gross, and it makes me leave immediately. But this is a short one. I hope you guys liked this episode. I hope you got something out of it. And if you guys enjoyed it, please let me know by leaving a rating and some feedback. And if you leave feedback, I will actually send you a signed photo print from an abandoned building. Yeah, you guys get stuff for doing something that's free. So thank you. I appreciate it. Also, if you guys didn't know, now you know, I have a book out called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. It is full of photos and stories from my urban exploration journeys all over the world, mostly the United States, a couple in Canada, and a place in Portugal, but super cool photos, super great stories. And other than that, if you want to see more of my content, head to youtube.com/justtheletterK, and you can find all my urban exploration videos up there. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you guys next week on the No Tracers podcast. Remember, stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go create something, and leave no trace.